Yeah. I can see
Okay.
better.
Okay. All right. Okay. Hello, everybody. The people that are in the classes are just like, people are switching it up on me. Okay. So who has been in the group 3 class? Who was in group 3 last time? Okay.
Wait. No.
Okay, because there was a little bit of different stuff that we did in group 2 versus group 3. So I sent out the file that was from group 3. So if anything's repetitive or if we haven't done something, just like flag me if I'm skipping over something we haven't done yet. But so basically, the first class, we went over the intro to the schedule template. We went over just the basics of the software and kind of where all the ribbons are, everything like that. In the second class, we actually built out a schedule. So we actually added activities. We went through adding in the logic. What we didn't get into too much is the tracing the logic and reviewing the critical path. So I want to start with that today and just kind of do like a recap and then a refresher on how we added in activities, how we did the different logic ties. So we'll start with kind of recapping what we did in the last class. And then from there, we'll go through some of the formatting that we can do with different sorts of the schedule, different groupings of the schedule. And we'll also go over making a 3-week look ahead and formatting that printout. Any questions that you guys have right off the bat that you want to either re-go over again from a previous class or anything that you guys have thought of? Okay. Okay, perfect. So when we do get into filtering the schedule and grouping the schedule by different things, if there's anything that you guys would like to see, please let me know. And then we can go through the process of, oh, how would you filter for, how would you filter for this? How would you group for this? And then we can go over those with the examples. Otherwise, I'll just pick something. But if you guys have something specific that you want to go over, then we can use that as the example. All right, any questions before we start? And does everybody have the template?
Staying critical.
We can take it off. Yeah. Okay. So is everyone's on the critical path filter? It should be if you opened it up from how it was. Okay. So click on view. So click on the view ribbon at the top. And then where it says critical here, change this from critical to no filter. And that will show your whole schedule again. Okay. Okay. So I'm trying to think of a good example of what to break out because we did do a pretty comprehensive breakout last time. So let's go through the process of breaking out our site utilities, like how we broke out the Stormline for Stormline A, B, C, D. Let's break out for the example of adding activities and tying them in. Let's break out the sanitary sewer work and the domestic water and dry utilities. So the sanitary sewer, if we were to break this into more detail, what would be an example of something we might break that into?
Line A or line B.
Okay. Okay, we'll do.
Building 1, building 2.
Okay. So one way that we can add this as an activity, so say we wanted to retain our logic. So this is following Stormline A for the storm drain work, and it's preceding domestic water and the dry utilities. If you wanted to keep that logic, then you can right click on the whole row number itself and copy. So right click on the entire row number and copy. And then right click again and hit paste. And that will paste an identical activity with the logic ties already on it. So then from here, so that was just all we did was just right click and copy, right click and paste. So now we have 2 identical activities, same duration, same logic. Everything is identical on these 2. So let's change the first one into sanitary sewer work line 1. And the second one will say line 2. Okay. And then from here, because they are concurrent, so we could either decide, okay, what do we need to split the durations to? We had 8 days overall. Are they each going to be 4 days? Do you want them to be 8 days, but overlapping a little bit? Or do you want the duration to actually be 16 total and 8 days per storm line? So from here, we would decide how we want to tie in the logic for this new breakout of activities. So let's have the first step, let's have line 1 go before line 2. So to add the logic, one of the ways that we added in logic last time is clicking on the first activity and then holding your control key down, click on the second activity. So click on the first activity and on your keyboard, hit Control. Click on the second activity. So you should see the first one turned gray. The second one has a green box around it. And then click the link tool at the top. So it's in the task ribbon, this link tool right here. And that will tie those two together. So I'll do that one more time. So I clicked on the line 1 activity and then holding my control key, clicked on line 2. And then using the link tool, link those together. So now we have storm line or the sanitary sewer line 1 before line 2. Each are 8 days. So we do have 16 total now. You can see that in this heading right here. Retaining the same logic. So this storm line A is kicking off both, but then line 2 is also after storm line A. So that logic is still there. It's just not driving it. But then line 2 is later, and that's pushing out the start of domestic water. So then the last thing to decide is, are these durations what you want them to be? So do you want to keep them each at 8 days and double what we had, or do you want to reduce the durations?
Say 4 and 4.
Okay. So we'll say 4 and 4.
16.
Okay, 4 and 4. So then that keeps the duration that we had before, and it keeps all logic and everything. Any questions on that? That's all a recap from last time, but any questions on that?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
So if storm line A has to precede storm or the sanitary sewer 1,
Mhm.
and then 2, it comes after that, is there any benefit to removing redundant links like storm line A on
Mhm.
on line 2?
You could remove it if you wanted to. If there's a chance that storm line 2 could go earlier and you may flip the order, that's where you may want to keep it. But if storm line 2 doesn't even have to be after, or if sanitary sewer line 2 doesn't even have to be after storm line A, then you could get rid of it or say maybe it has to go off. So you could remove the redundancy because you don't need risk would be if you do decide to flip the order and go in a different order. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any other questions with this breakout that we did? Okay, so now let's do domestic water. Let's break this into 3 activities. Instead of copying and pasting, I'm going to add new activities for this one. So one way that we can add an activity is by right-clicking the row that you want it to go above. So I'm going to right-click on 76 and say Insert Task, and it'll go above the activity I have clicked on. So I'm going to right-click on 76 and say Insert Task, and it's right above domestic water. Another way that you can add a task is by, in this task ribbon, hit this plus sign task. And same thing, it's going to go above the line that you have selected down here. So now we have 2 new tasks that we've created for domestic water. Any questions on those 2 different ways? So one way was by right-clicking and saying Insert Task. The other way was just by clicking the plus sign that's in the task ribbon. And what do you want to call these? How do you want to label the 3 domestic water lines?
I'll do by like location. Maybe like
Sure.
north and south.
Sure. We could do like north, east, and south or something. Thanks.
You're saying this?
Okay. So from here, let's choose our durations that we want. So for the north, how many days do you want to plug in there? Okay. And then the east?
Are they trying to accumulate to 40? That's 40 days in the total.
So it was 5 before. It's just 40 because we have things that are tied, so it's just falling back. But it was 5 before, so we could say like 2, 1, 2 if you want to keep 5. Okay. Okay, so we have 2 days, 1 day, and 2 days. Okay, so now the only thing we're missing, because we didn't copy and paste, we don't have the logic there already, so now we need to add in the logic. So which one do you want to go first? The north, the east, or the south? Someone can pick. Okay, so we'll have north go first. Originally, we had this whole line after the sanitary, it was overlapping 5 days into the sanitary sewer work. Do you want to keep that overlap? Or do you want to just have it follow sanitary sewer? This overlap actually wouldn't even be valid anymore because now we split it up. So we had a start to start plus 5 days with the sanitary sewer. So now it really wouldn't actually need to follow line 2. It would really just need to follow line 1. Does that make sense? So if we remove line 2 because it's just based on a start to start, so we could either do, okay, we know 4 days, 4 days. We could actually do line 2, start to start plus 1, or we could just say, oh, it really just needs to follow the finish of line 1. So those are the other things. Do breakout activities and copy and paste is now this 5-day lag isn't really relevant because the duration's shorter than 5 days. Any questions on? Okay. So let's actually just take off line 2 and let's just have it be a finish to start with no lag from line 1 for the domestic water for that original tie. Okay.
So how do you, so you're looking down there in the processor name,
Mhm.
work on domestic water.
Yeah.
How do you take line 2 out?
Just, oh yeah, so click on it and then just hit the delete on your keyboard. Sometimes it tries to delete a letter out. If it does that, hit escape and then hit delete and it should work. Yes, yes, you can. Yeah. Okay. So now all we need to do is we just need to take this predecessor for 73 and we want that to be also on the north. So this is where you take it off the south, only have it on the north. It doesn't matter. But we want the whole chain, the line 1 of the sanitary sewer work. So before we did the control click to tie things in, another way that we could tie logic in was by typing in the ID into the details window. So we know that we want to tie it to 73. So click on domestic water for the north. And then in the predecessor cell down here, we're going to type in 73. And that ties those together. So I'll do that one more time. So I clicked on the domestic water north activity, which has no logic on it. And in the ID, I'm just typing in 73, which is the row number of the predecessor that we want to tie it to. So I hit enter just to be out of the text field. And then when I click away, now it's tied in together. Okay, and let's make the east a successor of the north. So we're going to do the same thing. So the east is line 77. So with the same details window of domestic water north, we're going to add in the successor ID of 77. Okay. And then same thing with the east. We want the south to follow the east. So we're going to do the same exact thing and have the ID number of south be the successor to the east. If you keep getting the dinging, hit your escape key and see if that helps. Sometimes if you're like stuck, it'll freeze up in like a text field cell or something. If you hit your escape, it should take you out of that. Okay, any questions on that recap of how we added in the logic with a couple different ways or how we added in the activities? Okay, do you want to do one more example of breaking out the dry utilities or do you feel comfortable? Who wants to do another example? Okay, so we'll just keep going. All right. Okay, so now we have our schedule. So we have it pretty well broken out. If we look and just scroll down, we see that our critical path is starting with the layout grade pad for the building. This is following the building pad complete. So our logic is pretty good. We got pretty far in this one last class. But we ended with filtering for the critical path. So let's do that one more time. So go back to the view ribbon at the top. So this is how the schedule file was when we first opened it. But go to the view ribbon at the top. And then in the built-in filters, filter for critical. and that will show the critical path of your project. So this is really important on your baseline, is you always want to look at the critical path when you're done with your baseline and make sure that it's correct and make sure that it's logical and makes sense. So then running through here, okay, this is our critical path, great. And we can kind of just skim through and check and just make sure that everything looks logical and looks like it should be. So we can leave all of this as is, but if you do want to say, okay, so say the storefront and glazing, it looks like it may follow, if you don't know what something's following. So let's click on an activity. And did we go over the inspector tool at all in this class? I don't think we did. Okay, perfect. Okay, so in the task ribbon, click on the task ribbon. And there's an inspect button. So click on that and you should get this to pull up on the left-hand side. So it's in task and it's this inspect right here.
Oh, there. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so then everyone has the inspector on the left. Okay, so if we click on an activity, so say I click on the storefront and glazing, I'm actually going to have my details shown as well. So the storefront and glazing only has one predecessor, so we know what predecessor will be driving it. But in your inspector, it's going to tell you what predecessor is driving the activity that you did. So if you look at the storefront and glazing, we know that it's following install exterior metal panels. And then we can see in the logic it's bias start to start. So you can actually click on the install exterior metal panels and it'll take you back to that logic. And you can actually trace it back on that path that's driving your activities. So exterior metal panels, this one has two predecessors. It has sheathing and waterproofing and the EIFS. But in the inspector, it's saying, oh, the EIFS is what's driving out that date. So you can actually click on EIFS again. And if you wanted to go back, you can only go back once. So once you click on something, you can't continue to go back. But it does say go back to exterior metal panels. So you can trace back and forth on your logic if you don't know what's driving something out. And it doesn't have to be critical. It can be with anything. So anything on your schedule that you want to know what's driving it, the only thing that it has issues with is a finish to finish relationship. It can't read that properly. So sometimes it'll say something's driving it because it has a finish to finish and it's actually not. So if something doesn't seem right, it may be related to that. And then you can just look at it and see from there. But 9 times out of 10, this will be right. Or if you don't really use finish to finishes, then you won't have to worry about it at all. Any questions on this inspector here? Like if you click on roofing, it's a lag of 3 days into joist and decking. So it'll tell you any information that's significant or different for that activity. So if this says it's on a standard calendar, it'll tell us if it has another lag. If it has a constraint, it'll tell us it has a constraint. So it just gives you information about each activity that you have clicked on. But the most beneficial part, in my opinion, is the telling you what's driving it and being able to trace back and click through that path.
Can you show us where that inspector is?
I think yours looks different than mine, but it's in the task ribbon and mine's right here. All right, any questions on this? Okay. All right, so we don't have all of our responsible parties typed into this schedule. So let's go and let's take our filter off again. So again, that's in the view ribbon. And then click the drop down of critical, or the drop down of filter where it says critical, and say no filter. And now we have everything in our schedule shown again. And we do have some things collapsed on our schedule. So if you want to expand everything, click on the outline that's right next to filter. So there's an outline button next to filter and say all subtasks. So in the view ribbon next to filter, it says outline, all subtasks, and that will show you everything on your schedule. It'll expand everything. All right. So let's go through and let's add a responsible party to all of our activities. We can skip the pre-construction stuff, but let's add a responsible party so that in the next step we can group and filter by it, and it'll be applying to everything in our schedule. So for the milestones, who would you typically say is responsible? Would you typically say yourself or the owner or like building permit, maybe someone different? Okay. So construction and TP, who would you typically say is responsible? Okay. And then building permit owner, and then your substantial yourself. Okay. Okay. And then the contract substantial, we could say owner. Okay.
All mine are to say yes, yes, no, no, in the responsible party.
Is it a different column?
Says responsible party,
Says yes and no.
like all of them.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm not sure. Does it let you type over it? No. Okay. You may have a different responsible party column. Are you able to, if you want to insert? Mhm.
Responsible party text.
Yeah. Try that
Yeah,
one.
it says yes, it filled them all. It says it doesn't. I'll figure it out later on, so then.
Okay. And that's in the text 3 field?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I can take a look at it while we're typing in this next stuff. So let's go through. You can skip pre-construction, but go through everything else and just type in your responsible. You can skip submittals too. We don't need to do that for today. But type in the responsible party into each activity. You can skip pre-construction, skip submittals, but then make sure you fill in everything in the site work, and you can just make it up. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be accurate or anything. You can just make it up, but just something so that what we have here is going to carry over. So for example, what do we have for electrical? So for electrical, I actually spelled it wrong here, but I typed out the full word. So if you have the full word typed out, you can copy and paste that into, so I'm going to copy this, and then you can paste it into anything electrical you have in the site work. So I'll paste that into the dry and MEP utilities. So if you do have something that repeats, just make sure that you use the same title. And then you can also click the drop down arrow of responsible party, and you can see what you've already used as a reference. So any questions what the next step is? Okay, so we're just going to go through schedule and just fill in everything, skip pre-construction, skip submittals, but fill in a responsible party into every activity. Oh, you don't have it shown. Yeah, it should be under a text field. Go to type in text. Okay, maybe subcontractor. So try that one. So scroll up. Do you see text 1? Subcontractor, just use that one.
Gotcha.
And then you'll just have to type them in. Yeah.
So this over here.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Are you on a different file?
Same one.
Probably. But not the file that I emailed today.
No,
Okay. Then that's probably why.
I'm not on the email list today, so I switched classes from last week. Sorry. Reason we're doing this is so you can like go back and filter by certain responsible parties.
Yeah. Mhm. Then I can take a look at yours while we're typing this in. Okay. I don't know why yours is saying.
Yeah, well, and let me delete it.
Yeah, that's strange. I wonder if you have another text field that has. Yeah, you could use subcontractor.
Okay.
I don't know. His was like that too.
Cool.
Yeah, just use the subcontractor one.
I feel like this is super redundant, even though I know it's not.
Mhm.
I'm clicking on everything in the landscaping.
Yeah.
and Typing in landscaping.
Well,
You can copy and paste.
No, I know that. I don't mean
Yeah.
I could do it.
Oh, yeah, it is. Right.
I'm
Mhm.
typing in landscaping and something that's already categorized.
Yeah.
By landscape.
Mhm.
Nobody cares about your feelings.
Control C and then Control A. You sit Control C on the very
No, that's not.
Dang it.
Never mind.
I know you just.
Yeah, no, that's not doing it. Yeah, Control C the entire time.
You're idiots, correct. We divide up work schedules.
Yeah.
See them. Then you're also on here.
Yeah.
We, but all has to do with.
That's true. Yeah. Later on down the road.
You get more candy?
Yeah.
I started it.
I ate that bag.
It's more so you can like filter and then give individual people their schedule. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, but you could use it for whatever you want. I mean, people use it for different reasons. Yeah, yeah. Right. Mhm.
Sorry about these.
Nobody cares more.
I just want to see.
Next time when people complain about it.
Is it common?
Yeah, sit right there.
That's what makes your door.
I like sour candy, candy shop.
I got sorry.
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
There you go. That's which color did you get?
Sure. I got watermelon.
We're looking at.
Yeah.
Like if you're, for this exercise, like we're just printing out
Red
an
ones.
electrician.
Yeah.
So if there's something within the building umbrella,
Yeah.
will that
Oh, no, dang.
parent task also show up in the building?
Yes.
Plug in-
No, it'll show up. Yeah, if it's a summary, it'll show up if it's within that. Yeah.
I just did my submittal.
Yeah, it's fine.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I think I got lucky. Most of mine already filled in.
Yeah.
Mhm. All the ones for the building should probably be filled in already.
Yeah.
Oh, Brandon was over here. Here's a healthy bar.
Take the trash out.
Soy chocolate.
Mhm.
It's a kind bar.
This is actually.
They're actually.
Talk over here, there you go.
Yeah.
You say a kind bar?
Yeah.
That's the kind that tastes like shit.
Yeah. They're not bad. If you're hungry.
Yeah, depends on the.
Anything's good when you're hungry. Right. That's true.
Okay. We'll wait a couple minutes till everyone's done.
Got one bar over there. I'll take that.
Is that which one is that one? The cookie dough bar?
This
Those-
one.
Okay, no, those are different than I thought. Or what's the brand?
It's
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
literally the brand.
No, it's a Lara bar. See, these are made with like dates. These are
Of what?
healthy.
Dates.
Yeah, they're made with dates and like almonds and stuff. Yeah, yeah, they like actually are healthy though.
Remember the days that you
Yeah, it's
served
like-
beets in school?
Yeah, cashew butter, dates.
Beets. You know about beets. I don't think I've ever seen something that's named. Oh, did you want that?
Oh, no, no.
I'm paying attention.
So all the candy talk.
No big deal.
You want to
do all the time?
He got ready, he cut his hair off, man.
Yeah.
Kevin, you want some Skittles?
Oh, good.
All right. Who's still working on typing stuff in? It's okay if you are. And still, okay, a couple people.
Sour? Oh, I guess you're good.
Oh, that's weird.
I got a question for you. So I missed the second class.
Okay,
I was sick or I was on vacation.
okay.
When I typed in, exactly, apologize, please.
No, you're fine.
Not the old one.
Mhm.
I typed in up there, responsible.
Okay. Yeah, it's probably subcontractor. If you type in text one or subcontractor, does it come up?
Yes.
Okay.
That is, you know.
Yeah,
I
some,
was working on one today. so-
no, that's fine. I think we use different names for,
Oh.
yeah. Yeah.
I'm tempted. What's the basics there? I was just trying to figure out what this.
My parents would give out for Halloween the giant pixie
The
stick.
giant ones?
Yeah, that was like their favorite thing to give out.
Took them all away. A little ridiculous. I just want to see what's on.
Okay.
Stunning take back on my ear.
All right.
We can tackle the truck, you guys.
Yeah.
Put you back to normal.
Okay.
You need all food truck tacos, I want to be okay, but all this chocolate.
Okay. Who's still working on it? You guys good? Are you guys ready to move to the next step? Okay. Okay, perfect. So now what we're going to do, now that we have it typed in, it is important to type all this in before. So now we're going to copy the building and we're going to make a building 1 and a building 2. So that's why we want to get all this done before all the tedious work so that you don't have to do it twice, because now all the codes that we typed in here are going to now be in both building 1 and in building 2. So the first thing we're going to do is collapse building so that building itself, everything is collapsed underneath it. And then right click. So this will be just like how we copied and pasted an activity. So right click on the whole line for building and say copy. And I'm click on final inspections because I want it to go right above final inspections below the current building. So right click and copy for building. And then right click and paste. And now you have 2 identical buildings. Okay, so we'll do that one more time. So I collapsed building. So the first step is to collapse it. If you don't collapse it, it doesn't paste right. It'll paste with errors sometimes. So it's just safer to collapse it first. So collapse building so that that's all you see. And then right click and copy. And then now right click on final inspections and paste. So now you have 2 identical buildings. So we're going to rename those building 1 and building 2.
So I pasted mine on top of the building.
Mhm.
And instead of, one's like indented. from-
Underneath it. Okay.
Yeah, but it looks like it's still working the right way though.
Yeah, mine did same as well.
Okay. So so did you have building, so it's collapsed, but it's within building 1.
Yes.
So then you can just outdent it out. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it's working the same. One's inside of one.
He starts at the class, you know.
Right. You'll start getting, yeah. He's like, I think it's the same thing.
You can see like a little arrow.
Right.
That one goes left, 3 lines with an arrow. Right next to it. Oh, cool.
So if yours pasted like this, where building 1 is underneath building, or where the second building's underneath another, then click on it. And then in the task ribbon, this is the outdent and indent. Outdent it, and then now you're good. Okay. Okay, so any questions on how we just copied and pasted? Do you want to see that again? We can make building 3. It's up to you guys. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now we have 2 identical buildings, building 1 and building 2. All of the logic ties, because we did copy and paste, all of the external logic ties are retained. So the layout and grade for building 2 is going to be following the same thing that the layout and grade of building 1 was following. So they're both following building pad. And then the end of the buildings are both tied into your final inspections. Any questions on that? Okay, perfect. So now let's add one more text field column. So we're going to create a new one. Go ahead and expand building 1 so that both building 1 and building 2 are expanded. And now we're going to create a new text field. So start typing in the word text. And then click on text 10. Or text 2, whatever. It doesn't matter. Just one that's blank. I clicked on text 10 because that was the second one. And then triple click on the top of it. So click on it 3 times and you'll get a cursor to type. And then call this one building. Okay. So now we have a text field that we just renamed to building. So I'll redo that. Oh, I just saved, so I can't redo it. But so add a text field. So I added text 10 and then triple click on the top of the column. So I'll do that one more time. I'm just going to pick another text field. So click 3 times on the column heading and you should get a cursor that you can type. And then title it building. And that'll rename the text field to the name that you just gave it. Any questions on that?
Oh, yeah, I'm starting all over.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Following along, and the next thing I know is, I looked up and I turned left and I was turning right. He's over there.
It's okay.
Yeah, he's on.
Which part do you want me to go back to?
The beginning.
Okay.
Hey, it's getting recorded. No, just go back there.
So it was at home. I lost the protection.
Okay, sure,
I figured I knew where I was going. I've done this before, but
sure,
crashed.
sure. So do you have the add new column shown? Or you can right click and insert a column. Okay, so adding new column, if you start typing in the word text, that'll just bring you to that part.
I think anyone that says text.
Anything that doesn't have a parentheses with something next to it.
Got a weird problem. I can select text 10, text 11, text 8. As soon as I type in building,
Yeah.
it reverts back to subcontractor and fill everything in that building.
Okay. Are you clicking on it 3 times?
Yeah. Yeah. No, the icon comes up. I can type in building. Click on it. I've done it.
Okay. Let me look at it. I'm not sure.
This is our file.
I know, it's my fault. Okay.
Look, text.
Okay, so choose a text 10 or choose something that's blank.
Text 13.
Sure. And then
Triple click.
I think you clicked it just once. Hit escape. So click on it 3 times. Okay, and then type in the word building.
Building.
And then hit enter.
Enter. Bam.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's doing that.
Okay.
I think it's your triple click that's not working.
I'll let you.
So just pick any of them. I don't know if it's going to work. It's like your mouse pad has a different, yeah, it's not taking 3 clicks. It's only taking 2.
Okay.
So,
I'll just leave it as text 10. How about that? I'll know what it means.
yeah, just leave it as text 10.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's something with your mouse settings, maybe.
I would go get rid of it. It's probably gonna make you sick. It's too healthy to be good.
Okay.
I've been talking. She did say it was healthy for the water bar.
She said it was made out of dates.
Dates and cashews, yeah.
Yeah, whatever that is. This one right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know what a date is. I don't think I've ever had one.
I like
Been on
dates.
one.
I think they're good. Yeah, but I like dates that are plain.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, do you?
Yeah, like ones that are
I only know.
by themselves.
I think I've never seen, I've never seen someone eat a steak.
I haven't either.
They're good.
In movies.
They're
Like
good.
back in the
Yeah.
1400, in England or something.
Okay. Okay, so now does everyone have a building column, or if it's not letting you rename it, just do a text column and we're just going to type in the building number? Is that everyone at this step right here? Okay, so now for all the building 1, we're going to type in a 1 into those activities. You can click and drag like this, or you can click on the first cell and you can scroll to the last activity in building 1, and you can use your shift key, click on the last cell, and then right click and fill down. So I'll do both of those again. So the first step is to just type in a 1 into the first activity. Once you have a 1, you can click on that cell, and if you get the skinny plus sign icon, you can click and drag that. That'll drag down the cell values into the ones below. So you just click on the cell, and then you can drag it down.
Oh, we don't
Like
want to drag
Excel.
it. We don't want to drag it in blue though. Right?
You can put it in
Skip
the
over.
summaries for this. It doesn't matter. Yeah, because it's building 1 anyway, so it still applies.
Or you
You-
can copy and paste and hold shift. Is that-
Yes. Or you can click on the first cell, and then you can use your shift key and click on a lower cell and right click and fill down. That's going to fill the value into all the cells in between. So using whichever method you like, fill down a 1 into everything that's in building 1.
What do you think? What do we do for 2?
We'll do a 2.
Killing it. That was the point.
The best and brightest, it really was.
That's right.
Oh, so it keeps the formatting, that's what I was worried about.
It keeps the formatting when you drag down. Yeah.
That's the most important thing.
Building 2, you'll have a 2. And then building 1, you'll have a 1.
See? Of course.
I was joking.
I changed one at their both. Because they're labeled the same.
Do you have, did you rename the buildings into building 1 and building 2? Okay.
Same thing. It works. But I will be accommodating. I like
Jolly Rancher.
Honestly, did you click on this thing anymore? On the- Here,
Mine
it's just like
keeps mirroring what I typed in.
I'm over it. We should do this too.
What?
We should do these two.
Why?
So they show you home.
Alexandria.
Yes.
Mine keeps mirroring wherever I text them on it. I put it over. Well, you got 2 columns that will say building 2. That will when I change this to building 1, will change that to building 1.
Just one. That was just, I think I was just doing the example for, just to show how to add a column again.
Okay. I added a second one. All right. Never mind, I added.
Let me do the shift for some reason. So we can always check.
Okay.
Would you not add to the building to? Row?
Here,
Yeah.
you could. You could if you wanted to.
That would've-
Yeah. Mm-mm. As long as everything underneath it is within that category, you're fine. All right. Okay. Okay. Is everybody ready for the next step? We can take a couple more minutes if you guys are still setting it up. Who's ready to keep going? Okay. I think a couple people.
Hey, don't worry about me.
It's okay. No, I mean, we can wait a second. So I need to take their candy jar away.
Like a shower looking all over.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe.
Are we good? Maybe. Okay, perfect. Okay. So now the next step. So now that we have all of the responsible parties tied in, click on the top of the responsible party column, click on the drop down arrow. And you should see all of your values are right here. And it should say, it should look just like this when you click on the drop down arrow. So now click group on this field. So I'll do that one more time. So I clicked on the top of the responsible party. I clicked on the arrow that's on this cell. And then group on this field. Okay. And you should see that your schedule now, you can minimize the no value. That's just the submittals and stuff we didn't tie in. But you should see that everything is sorted within those sections and grouped within your schedule. So does everybody see that? So now it's important that we put the building 1 and building 2 because these activities here all repeat. We don't know where they're coming from, but we know now that this is all building 1 and this is all building 2. So you can see right here that, oh, you probably need to stagger this because these are happening at the exact same time. So this is how you can check and see if your crews are in 2 places at once, or you can see, oh, did they have 2 crews? Is this possible? This is where you can kind of scroll through and you can see, okay, these are all stacking right on top of each other. So these probably need to be staggered. So this is where you would go through and determine if you add crew ties to it, or if you do have the multiple crews, or just whatever you need to do with that information. But this is how you could double check to see how many people you have in 2 places at once. Does that make sense? Okay, perfect.
It's a good thing, I think, sometimes.
Mhm.
Irrelevant if they have crews.
When you have it like this, is
Yeah.
there a way to organize it by date now?
You could do sort by start. So like if we went up here, I'm going to go up to where you can see concrete. If you click on the start column, just like we did the responsible party drop down, click on the column for start and say earliest to latest. So now you can see everything is, okay, layout and grade pad for 1 and 2 are happening at the exact same time. So this is where you could determine where you want to add those crew ties in. So say you want to pour the slab of building 1 before you even start anything in building 2, you could add that relationship in there. You could do it right from here if you wanted to, or you could go back to the normal view and do it from there. We'll do it both places and show the difference. So let's take pour slab that's for building 1. So click on the pour slab activity that has a 1 next to it. And then you can use the control key or you can use the details, whichever way you prefer to tie things in. I'm going to have the layout and grade pad of building 2 follow pour slab of building 1. So I'll do that one more time. So pour slab of building 1, and I know it's building 1 because of that cell that we added in. So pour slab of building 1 is the predecessor of layout and grade pad of building 2. Okay. And you should see that everything else in your schedule that follows has now staggered as well. So all of this is staggered. And then we still have some overlap between our electrical rep overhead. So it didn't stagger everything. It only staggered some things. But you can see that it did push out, okay, the metal panels, those all now have a stagger. They're not stacking on top of each other.
Shut one more time.
Yes. So all I did was I took the pour slab that has the building 1 next to it. And then I clicked on the layout and grade pad that has the building 2 with my control key. So we want the pour slab. So we basically want to do everything through pour slab before you start layout and grade pad of building 2. Yes. Yeah. So click the first one and then using your control key down, click the second one and then click the link tool. Okay. So then you should see that everything's staggered. So everything that has like a light blue shaded here is everything that had a date change from that one change that we just made. Okay. Any questions on this? Okay. So now let's click on the responsible party. Click on the drop down and say no group. And that puts your schedule back to the normal view. We do still have it sorted by start. So if you want to sort it by the natural order, so we went sort by start, we said earliest to latest. If you want to put it back to the schedule's natural order, which is like the order that you're actually typing everything in, click on the task mode drop down. So this task mode is the first cell. Click on the drop down of task mode and say A to Z. And that will put it back to the natural order.
The natural is how you put it in.
Right.
So then it could be all out of whack, right?
What?
So if you're adding in items,
Yeah.
so then it'll go back to the way the numbers are. Yeah.
Yes, correct. Yeah. Yeah, the numbers will all be numerical on the left-hand side.
Do the task one more time.
Yeah, so it's a task mode right here. Just sort A to Z. And that'll put it back.
Yeah, I didn't realize I scrolled over to the side. I couldn't find it.
All good. Okay, so the same way that we just grouped by responsible party, you can also filter by it. So click the drop-down arrow of responsible party. And where it says select all, click on that so that you unselect everything. So we're in the drop-down arrow of responsible party. Clicking the select all will take the check marks all off. So now let's click on just concrete and say okay. So now you should see that stagger that we just put in here for building 1 and building 2. So if you just wanted to give the concrete sub their schedule, you could filter by just their work and print this out. You can also filter by multiple at one time. So say you want the concrete work and the earth work and whatever you called the utility work. You want to show all of those on one schedule. Then you can select just those responsible parties and see just that work. You can do the same thing. If you want to clear your filters, you can say clear filter, and that'll put everything back. So say you just want to show your MEPs. You could click on just those 3. And you can see just your MEP work.
I was gonna say I get 2 electrical.
Oh yeah, I spelled electrical wrong. on the one that I sent you guys on one of the cells. So sorry. Okay. So we can see here that your rough-ins are actually happening at the same time. So you have 1119 for both rough-ins. So something in here did not get pushed out when we tried to tie the buildings together. So we just need to find now, okay, what is actually causing this to be the same date? Do you guys see that? Okay. So I'm going to take the filters off. So, or I can wait a second if you guys are still, am I going too fast?
Always.
Okay. I'll wait a
Just the
second.
only one that's gonna say it.
Okay. Are you guys ready for the next one? Okay. So click on the responsible party dropdown and you can select all so that filters off. Okay, so now let's go back to our buildings and let's see where we need to actually add more stagger because the stagger's not carrying over. So I'm just going to scroll through. We know that it's something before you get to the interiors. So let's see what the interior walls is tied to. So this is a situation where if you wanted to, you could use the inspect and the inspect would tell you what it's tied to. So that's back in the task ribbon. So go to the task ribbon and then click on inspect. Okay, so does everybody see that it's install roofing? Okay, so then let's find the interior walls of building 2 and let's see if that's also after the install roofing and let's see if it has the same date of 10/28 to 11/8. So you can either scroll down and find the activity or you could do control find, so control F, and then you can search for the activity that way as well. So whichever one you want to do, if you'd rather just scroll and look for that activity in the next building, or if you wanted to do control F and type in the name to jump to that activity, either one works. It's your own preference.
Even though we're gonna have two different building one.
Mhm. Yes, so you can jump back and forth and you can see if they have the same dates. So this is 11/26 through 12/11. And this one's 10/28 through 11/8. So it's not the interior walls. The interior walls did have the correct stagger. Does everybody see that? Okay, so then if it's not the interior walls, let's look at the mechanical rough overhead and let's see what that's tied to. So it looks like that's tied to the milestone for roof deck complete. So click on the mechanical rough overhead. It looks like all of these are tied to the roof deck complete. Everybody see that? Okay. Okay, so let's go to that activity by clicking in the inspector and clicking on that activity. So click on any of the overhead rough-ins and then go to roof deck complete. And here we can see that the roof deck complete is actually tied to the joists and decking in both building 1 and building 2. Does that make sense? Or does everyone following? Okay, so really the joist and decking of building 2 now is pushing out the overhead rough-ins of building 1 when it doesn't need to be. So instead of having this milestone be what pushes out the overhead rough-ins, let's instead have the joist and decking activity, what pushes out the overhead rough-ins. Any questions on that or any questions on why we would want to change that? Okay. Okay, so let's go back to the mechanical overhead activity. Okay, so we're in the building 1 mechanical rough overhead. So this is following the roof deck complete and it's following the joist and deck. Everybody see that? So let's get rid of the predecessor for the roof deck complete. So you just click on the predecessor and then click on the delete key.
Taking away the roof.
Correct. Yeah, we're taking away the milestone. We want the joist and decking to stay because that's for the correct building.
You can do that for all.
Yep. So we'll do that for electrical and for plumbing.
So you do that typically, like when you're doing your schedule like this, everything that would be, you would go through it like this. That's the easiest way. Like if you have 2 buildings, you would go through your building 2, and every time you see a predecessor that was the wrong building, you just go through that.
Yes. Mhm. So what I find helpful is if you actually put the building into the name. There is like a way that you can paste it from Excel and add it to the name. We can go over that if you guys would want to see that. Some people want to see it, some people don't. So I don't want to hold up everyone, but it is helpful if you do actually have, like if this joist and decking here said, where is that? If this had like a building 1 next to it, then you know right away that this is tied to the correct building, because it'll actually say building 1 down here. So that's really beneficial if you do have the desire to add those names. It can be super helpful. And there is a shortcut on Excel if anybody does want to see that. But that's totally preferential. It's nothing that you have to do by any means. But you're exactly right. So what we would do is we'd go through and we'd say, okay, what's being pushed out in building 1 from building 2 that doesn't need to be? Okay, any questions on that? Okay, so now let's go back to grouping by responsible party and let's see if now our stagger is looking like it's correct, or we can see if we catch anything else that looks like it's maybe held up by the wrong building. Does that make sense? Okay, so we'll go back to the responsible party dropdown and we'll say group on this field. So again, that's just clicking the arrow and then group on this field. Okay. So now we'll scroll through and we'll see if anything is stacked where they're all happening on the same dates again. You see flooring? Let's get that. Okay, yeah, flooring. So flooring, millwork. So it looks like it's everything that's after the HVAC startup, which the HVAC startup, that looks like it's the same times as well. Millwork. And then it's probably everything after that. Okay, any questions on how we are seeing that? Basically what we're doing is we're just looking for which ones are still stacked on top of each other like this. So we know that it's coming from something that has to do with the HVAC startup because those are right next to each other as well. So you can stay in this view if you'd like, it's up to you. But if we look at HVAC startup, it's tied to the dry and complete activity. So the dry and complete, I'm guessing, is the same as the roof deck complete, where it's coming off of both building 1 and building 2. So let's go to the HVAC startup activity and let's remove the predecessor for dry and complete. Okay. Millwork is still staggered. Okay. Mine changed. Yes. Okay, so you should see that one of the HVAC startups drew back to be an earlier date. The other one stayed the same. Everybody have that? Okay, so then if you scroll through and check your flooring, check your millwork, the millwork should be staggered now. Your flooring should be staggered. And you've taken care of everything that is stacked on top of each other still that shouldn't be. Okay. Any questions on this or how we are using the responsible party to our benefit to check these things? I mean, this is like we're going into more detail in this class. This is pretty advanced. This is stuff that if you find it helpful, it's something that could be really used to your benefit as you're working through your schedule, especially if you have multiple buildings or you have a lot of things going on at one time. It can be really beneficial to be able to just check everything. Okay. Okay, so now let's take our groupings off. We don't necessarily need to see our groupings anymore. So click on the arrow for the responsible party and we'll say no group. Yep. Yeah, now we're back to our normal view. And I'm going to close the inspector too, just so that I can see more of my schedule. Okay.
gonna assume this has to be.
Mhm.
And then, like, something changes it pops back up and makes that happen on screen.
If you click like this button here, this makes it go away and come back. So you can make it just turn off. You have to drag it like all the way down to the bottom if you want it to stay off. Yeah. Okay. So is any questions we've done so far? Any questions on how we've grouped the schedule by responsible party? Okay. You could also filter by, so let's filter by building. So let's click the drop down of building, and let's say we only want to see building 1. So I clicked the drop down of building and I'm selecting just building 1. And you should see all your building 1 activities. So this is how you could see just the one building, but say you want just building 1 and you want to see all of your MEPs within building 1. So then you could select those and you can mix and match the filters to be whatever you want it to be. So then we have just your MEPs only in building 1. What other filters would you guys be interested in seeing for different ways that you can sort your schedule to either only show it to certain people, where you don't necessarily want to show somebody the whole schedule because they don't need to see the whole schedule, you just want to show them their work, or you could show just their work and what it's related to? Or is there anything you guys would like to see that we could run a filter for?
I'd do one, it's not an additional filter, but on your building, do one for site. You got
Oh, sure.
site, Building 1, building 2.
Okay. So let's take off the filter for responsible party if you added it. So I'm just going to select all, clear that filter. And then in the building, I'm going to select all again to clear that. Okay. So now I'm going to scroll to the top of the site and add that as a value for the building. Okay. And then same way that we did it before with building 1 and building 2, you can just drag those down, or you can use your shift key and you can fill that down. But we're just adding site next to everything that's under the site heading.
Give him all the nasty stuff I want.
I want to put more than one from the building side,
Mhm.
like on the submittal. This doesn't necessarily apply to this, but for other scenarios.
Yeah.
Want to put 1 and 2. How do you plug that into the filter to recognize both of them and not just one? Is there a way to do that?
You would have to,
Another responsible party before, like you just have like an MEP overhead. And
Yeah.
Plug in all 3 trades.
yeah.
I've done that before. I thought it was like a comma or something. Try that with 1, 2.
If it's a text field, it won't recognize it that way.
Okay.
So you would have to either like make a new filter that's 1,2 and select that too as a value.
Yeah, because like one you could use in the franchise utility
Mm-hmm.
transformers, because a lot of the time, say you got 2 building new transformers.
Sure. Yeah, so I guess that would be like, okay, so your transformer, if they're going to come together, then you could have like 1,2. Or this may be a situation where you say, oh, actually, let's make one of these for building 1 and one for building 2, where you could then copy this activity and then paste it. And then you could say that one of them is just going to apply to building 1 and the other one's going to apply to building 2. So I think it would just be, is it one transformer that powers both, or is it individual?
Yeah, it just depends.
That's
Yeah.
maybe one for one for each building.
Mhm.
But you know what I'm talking about though, towards like I know for some responsible where I had like 5 different subs that didn't
Right.
like one long item for all 5. Like
Mhm.
if I filtered by sub 1, it would show.
It would show you that too. That's if you have it as a resource, it probably let you do that.
Probably,
Yeah. Because you can select multiple resources on one All right. Any questions on this? So now you should see that in your building dropdown, you should see 1, 2, and site. Okay. So then you could say that you want to see anything that's in the site work. You can look at that and you can just print out the site work. You can mix and match really whatever you want. So you can mix and match the filters by using the drop down arrows in each, or you can mix and match actually by saying, okay, let's look at everything. Let's look at everything that's in building 1 only. So we only have building 1, but then if you also want building 1, but then the critical path, you can say, okay, these are your critical path activities that run through building 1. You could do the same and say, okay, I just want critical path that runs through building 2. And this is critical path through building 2. So you can mix and match that way as well by using these built-in filters at the top, mixed with your column filters down here. So that's the best way to do 2 filters at once versus trying to, because you can also create a new filter here and you can actually try and like write one out, but it is usually more beneficial to just have the columns that you mix and match and have multiple filters that way. Any questions on that? Okay, what other filters or groupings would you guys be interested in seeing? Anything?
Big one always is steel or panel erection, stuff like that.
Okay.
You're only gonna have 1 crane usually.
Okay. So then you could look at the responsible party and you could look at just your steel. And then I think I called it storefront. So we'll say steel, storefront, and let's do the tilt up also. So let's filter for steel, storefront, and tilt up. Okay. And let's look at those. And then we also want to take off, if you did put your critical path filter on, we'll want to take that off as well. So steel, storefront, and tilt up. Okay, so then now we're seeing everything that requires your certain crane or whatever it may be that you're looking at for this. So then from here, would you decide if anything's overlapping that shouldn't be, or would you say, oh, you have to consolidate it to a certain time frame, or what would you?
Yeah, like your rec panels, you
Mhm.
want thing 1, you've got it written from 913 to 919, then you got a break going to 1014 to 1018, so you have to demob and remob the crane.
Okay,
So you'd either have to bring that second building back or
Mhm.
push the first building up.
okay. Does everybody see that? Or what he's looking at here? Do you want to say that again, but louder?
Yeah, so I was just bringing up like the panel crane. I know that's one thing we always run into. So you got a break from 913 to 919, and then it goes to 1014 to 1018. So now you'd have to adjust that date so you don't have 2 crane remote or 1 crane remote or two mobilizations in general.
Okay. All right. Anything else that you guys would want to look at? That was a good example. All right. So then next, let's look at our overall critical path again, now that we've made these changes, and let's make sure we'll do another pass on our critical path and make sure that it looks accurate. So you know which column has a filter on it because it has this little filter icon. So if you ever lose where your filter is, just look for what has this icon here, click the drop down, and then you can just select all or clear filters. Both will do the same thing. And now my responsible party little filter icon's gone. So now I know that I'm showing my whole schedule because it says no filter here, and then none of my columns have filters. So if you wanted to do, or let's do the critical path. So we'll filter for the critical path. So this is the built-in one. So for the drop down, say critical. And now we looked at the critical path right at the beginning, but now that we have 2 buildings, we'll look at it again and just make sure that everything is still looking. So it goes through building 1 through pouring your slab, or I guess it goes through the site work, mobilize, site work, building 1 through pouring slab, and then building 2, and then it actually stays in building 2 through the rest of that time. That's because building 1 and building 2 are clones. They have the same duration as each other. if one building was bigger than another. So say building 1 was significantly bigger than building 2 and it had longer durations, then you may have building 1 stay critical the whole time. It would just depend on what your flow of work is. So since these are identical, it's going to stay in building 2 once we get there, unless you had maybe some sort of material delay that was going to push out your permanent power or something like that, or push out your HVAC units before, where you may have a gap where it then pushes back to building 1. Does that make sense? Okay, that would be like if you had something that was outside of construction of the buildings that's impacting it. But this is pretty typical for a baseline, would be just going through the first portion of the building until you then start the next one, and then it goes all the way to the end to your final inspections. So this is just like our overall pass. Okay, so we're done building out our baseline. We have the level of detail that we want to show, and then we have the different filters built in here so that we can utilize that throughout the project as we go. And then we just check the critical path, make sure that this is all good, and make sure that our finish date is showing our contract date. And then from here, we're good to go with basically the logic and setting up our baseline. Any questions on this process that we've gotten to up to right now? Okay, sounds good. Okay, so now that we've validated our critical path, let's make a filter for a 3-week look ahead. And then we'll go through the print setup, the print settings and setting up the print preview. So does anybody know what filter to use for a 3-week look ahead? Does anyone know that offhand? It's okay if you don't. Yeah, date range, that's correct. All right. So in the built-in filters, so you see the critical, I'm gonna hit no filter just to make sure everything's cleared out, but it is built in and it's called date range. So does everybody see that here? Okay, so click on the date range filter, and then you'll see this first pop-up prompt. So this says show tasks that start or finish after. So if we're making a 3-week look ahead from today, does anybody know what date we would use for the early portion of the range? Yeah, last week.
Previous Monday.
So the 19th.
Yeah, or the 6th. You could do the 16th. You could do, yeah, either one. It's really your own preference. If you wanted to do just a day back, it's fine. Or if you wanted to do a month back, you could do that. Some people like to do further back. But typical is just like 1 week back from where you're at now. Or if you keep your date at Mondays, then you would do a Monday back. So it's really just your preference. But the standard would just be 1 week back or 1 period back from where you were at. So I'm going to click for this one. I'm going to choose August 16th. And then click OK. And then what about the end of the range? 4 weeks.
Week back.
Yeah. That's correct. Yeah. Yep. So we'll do 3 weeks forward. So the 30th, 6. So it's actually the 13th. So that's 4 weeks total that we're showing, but 1 week is in the past, 3 weeks are forward. Okay, so I'll do that one more time. So I'm going to the filters and then selecting date range. And for show tasks that start or finish after, we're going to go 1 week back from today. So I'm going to choose the 16th. And then for the end of the range, it says and before, we're going to go 3 weeks forward from today. So 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So that's the 13th. And when you select OK, you should see your schedule now filtered for just the 3 week look ahead period as of today's date. Everybody see this? Okay, perfect. You can get rid of additional columns if you don't want to show them on your look ahead. So I'm going to hide the responsible party column, and I'm going to hide the building column because I don't need to show those on my printout. You could keep it on there if you wanted to. If you want to keep it on there, we can.
How do you get them back?
So if you hit them, you can just add a new column and then just type in the column name, and you can just add it right back. So if you're not deleting it,
You can also, if you just highlight some columns, maybe unhide it like on Excel.
no, you have to insert a new one. Yeah. What you could do though is you could actually like cover it like this and it's not going to show on the printout.
Oh, if you covered.
Yeah. If you cover like any part of it, like even if you cover that, it's going to hide it.
So it only just prints your view.
Yes. But it's not like it won't show this column at all because it's partially cut off. So it's only going to show the finish.
And once you get it tailored to how you want it, you can save it as a new format, right?
Um,
3-week format.
You could, it doesn't really like save correctly. It's supposed to, but sometimes we'll like remove your formatting when you change it to a different one. So like in theory, that's how it's supposed to work, but it'll clear your formatting sometimes when you revert back. But if you can get it to not do that, then by all means, go for it.
I'm doing my schedule. I made it start to finish on the building one or panels. Just
Okay.
to see what it do, and I reset, basically everything reset.
Oh yeah. Yeah, start to finish makes it go like backwards. Yeah. Okay.
I just want to see if I can fix it by doing that.
Oh yeah.
Pulling that building one panel erection.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That'd probably work. Yeah. All right. Any questions on how we got our data filtered to a 3-week look ahead? Okay. So let's go to the file, and then some people for some reason was freezing up when we hit print for the first time, but go to file at the top, the file ribbon, and then say print. Is anyone's frozen? We can wait a second if it is. Okay, everyone's is fine. Okay, perfect. Then say print preview. Okay, that's what people had last time.
Check the Google PDF.
Okay.
That's probably why it was freezing. Everyone's hooked up to like the protection.
Yeah, I think that's what it was, is because everyone's froze for like a while. I think because they all froze at the same time. Yeah. So click on the file, print, and then show your print preview, but make sure that your printer selected is Bluebeam PDF or whatever PDF writer you have.
I'll fix the dates too, right?
Yes, yeah. Is anybody still frozen?
No, but mine is my overall.
Okay, what does yours look like?
Mine just shows the,
Back here.
What calendar?
It's on here.
No, it's different. It's up top where you go to Gantt chart.
Where's there an outlet?
And you gotta right click on it, hit as many tasks as possible.
Is it? Thank you.
Is it right here?
Oh, I see it.
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna have to unplug the HDMI for a second, sorry.
Have an extension cord if you need one. There you
No, I think we're good. Thank you though. Okay.
It's a battery.
I may need to like change my,
You hold down the control wheel, it comes in and out. You can also.
yeah, for some reason it does this and I have to like shut it and then wait for it to like turn off and then I have to open it for it to like recognize the new. Yeah, I don't know why.
I do that when I go plug it in. I can plug it in, it's supposed to be smart.
I know, yeah. It is not, unfortunately. Sorry.
The bottom.
Then just try to switch it. That's, see if you switch it off. Be like what we do August 16th.
Things already rushed out. I know it's really lame, but maybe that's what.
I think what's going on in my fields
Mhm.
is in the past, I've created a lot of custom fields. And
Yeah.
those-
Oh, yeah,
those
maybe
are
so.
Saved into like a global.
Yeah, probably so.
Probably need to go.
Yeah, you could go to, it's at the file and then it's where is it? It's in info and then organizer.
Okay, yeah.
And then you can actually like get rid of some of that stuff.
Yeah, I got a bunch.
I got kicked out of the Teams link. Okay. I got kicked out of the Teams. So it was when I had to unplug to charge my computer. I know. Okay, perfect.
You can see it over here. We've even tried to adjust the margins.
I'll look at,
One of the nicer ones they get.
what is it doing?
So every time I go to print, it's getting rid of my like overall breakdown.
His preview is like way blown up, so he's having to do it on multiple pages. There's no way to.
Oh, just switch to it. Are you on a tabloid?
Yeah, we switch it to standard and then back to tabloid.
Click on page setup. And then go to the first tab. Oh man, I don't know.
Yeah,
That's where I was
all the
running to.
settings.
Yeah. And you're on Bluebeam?
Yeah,
That doesn't look like a tablet. It looks like a letter.
so we tried switching it back and forth.
What if you change your printer to something
I
else?
tried it to a different one also.
It looks like it's like freezing up.
Maybe it's just froze, but whenever I go back, oh, what? I go back, you know. start
Mhm.
File, print, open.
Red cell.
Ah, there it goes.
Yeah, now go to Bluebeam again. Okay, I don't know. Your Bluebeam's just messed up. I would just, what was that Microsoft Print to PDF?
Most of the time what happens when I've had that issue is I print it off like something in the job trailer. I'm just trying to go off the settings that was in the job trailer. I'm doing it.
Everyone has to turn my computer off and back on.
Some people had that issue and they just like closed their project file and then opened it again and it worked. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Date range filter on.
Okay. So is everybody's looking like this? Did everyone get their Bluebeam PDF to work? Or your printer, whatever you're using? Okay. And then are you on tabloid?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So our next task will be to make the dates here match the same date range window that we selected on our filter. Does that make sense? Okay, so we're gonna do the same 1 week back from today and then 3 weeks forward from today.
I just hit today, so you don't have to click somewhere.
So even if we already did all of that
Mhm.
in the project.
Mhm.
so that everybody knows the dates we're gonna print.
Yes, yeah, so basically you're filtering for your data in the first one, and then this is filtering for what we wanna print,
Okay.
or I guess what range we wanna print.
Iron print is exactly what you're looking at.
Right.
So it's-
Yeah, we'll try to print whatever your print settings were previously. Mhm. Okay, so is everybody clear on that? So we have our dates here. We want that time window of the dates to match what we selected on the schedule. So if you'll notice, I don't know what scale you guys were zoomed into, but my time scale here is quarter month. So when I go to print, that is why it's showing a whole month. So even though I only have last week to 3 weeks from today, it's going to show the whole month because that's our shortest time scale that we're showing. Does that make sense? So then to change this, what we do is just go back to your schedule And we'll use the plus and minus down here at the bottom. Do you guys see that plus and minus? So just zoom in until you have weekday. So it should look like this, where it's the week start date and then a day. And you should see gray for the weekends. Is everybody able to see this? Mhm. Sometimes your screen settings may not show this gray color very well if you have like your blue light settings on. So if you don't see this gray, don't worry about it. It may just be really difficult to see. But does everybody see this right here? Okay, so now if you have this as your time scale, go back to file and then print. And you should see that now it's actually showing the correct range that you have selected. That's because your time scale that you have on your schedule file now matches the time scale that you're telling the printer. So that is one thing that when you switch back and forth between different printouts, you have to make sure that it's going to actually fit the data, that your time scale is the appropriate one to fit the data that you're wanting to show. Otherwise, it's not going to print it onto one page. It'll try to stretch it across several pages. Okay, so yours is good. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm still stretched.
So if yours is still stretched, click the minus sign.
So I've zoomed back in.
Yeah, so click zoom out one more time.
Oh, it is trying to be two. So that should be it. Oh, no, it's two. See, I think that's what I did. See, I think I'm still. Oh, no. Work that down. I just. Hey. I tinkered. I fingered it one tweet. I paused it.
Sometimes your settings too, like sometimes it just will freeze. So if you close your project file and then reopen it, sometimes that'll adjust your printer settings. But the printer settings are the one thing that I've seen like really inconsistencies with people having issues with it printing what you're wanting to show, like he was right now. So if you are having issues, just try closing it and opening it again and letting it like reconnect to the printer, because sometimes it's just there's no explanation, it just freezes. But if you keep it on your Bluebeam PDF on that file, you should be fine, and it should keep it once you have adjusted that. The biggest issue is when you're sending the file back and forth to somebody else and you're each changing it, because then it has to resync to your PDF writer from theirs. So that's usually when the issues will happen. So you're probably having the issues because I sent it and then sent it to you guys, so it's trying to sync up with yours. So that's likely what causes the issues. Okay. So I'll wait a second for everyone to get theirs to be. Whose looks just like this? Got theirs to work. Okay. Okay. I can come around for, you can just raise your hand if you want me to come. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So you can click the zoom in like one more time because you're on at the bottom. Yeah. Okay, click on it again. Okay, so yours is going too far because that's half days. Click the back arrow. Okay. Your setup is just different. So right click on your time scale at the top and say time scale. And then, okay, click on the top tier. Does the top tier say, like top tier is the first tab? Okay, so you have two tiers, middle, bottom, you're good there. Click on middle tier. And then instead of days, say weeks.
Count one.
Yeah, count one. Okay, and then click on bottom tier. And then instead of hours, say days. Say okay. and say count 1. Oh, it keeps going back to hours. What
I
is,
didn't put okay on the middle tier.
okay, click OK, and then we'll try to go back to it. Okay, so then go time scale again. You switch your middle tier back to days.
Yeah, it kept doing that every time we tried.
Okay. Close the file and then open it again.
Here, go ahead.
Or do you have it saved
I have a
somewhere?
hard time seeing.
I don't think he said.
Oh, there, it just worked. Oh, wait, Sunday. There. I don't know, it worked. But yours is zoomed in too much, so I'm gonna right click and say zoom. And then I'm gonna say like 30 as the zoom. That'll scrunch it a little bit. And then when you print it, I'll go,
Still a little weird.
it is still a little big, but it looks like it worked.
Okay. Huh.
I don't know why it does that.
What we just did.
Yeah,
Okay.
hopefully it stays like that though. I mean, I don't know, this happened and
Huh.
people had that same problem. Messed up, yours is good. Is yours messed up?
It's deleted. And then
Deleted the file?
It says computer couldn't do it, so I just closed it.
Yeah, I closed my,
Did you save it? Have you saved it all of this class? Okay, if you don't save it, it doesn't save.
I can save mine real quick.
There's no auto save.
So I
Yeah,
can save it on mine.
that's what I.
yeah. This is like the last thing we're gonna do for class anyway, so yeah. But yeah, if you want to send it to him, then he has it.
I think I'm good.
Okay.
Good on that. Got it all on one page.
Yours, go back to your virtual, your time scale doesn't look right. Oh, click the plus sign one more time at the bottom.
When I do this, it pops it to 2 pages.
And then right click here.
Right click here.
Yeah, and then say zoom. And change it to, what's your zoom? Does it say 67? Make it 30. Yeah, yeah.
They look very spot on. Okay.
Okay. It's still, it's still not working right. Click the plus sign, click the minus sign at the bottom a couple times. Okay, now click the plus sign once.
Oh, they are.
Try printing, I don't know why it's doing that. Try printing it. Yeah, it's still stretching it wide.
One. That's what I'm asking. They'll need to.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure why yours is. Oh, you know what? Go to your page setup at the bottom. Is your zoom at 100%? Make your zoom 100%. There. I don't know why your time scale is looking different, but this is the same issue that other people had too. When they closed the file and opened it, it would fix it. Or sometimes, like if you just now go back and make your time scale bigger and then smaller. Click on it make it smaller a couple more times. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but it's like you guys all have the same setting. Click on the time scale, like right click at the top of the time scale and say time scale. And then on the middle tier, show weeks. Yeah, say weeks and then make the count 1. Okay. Click OK. And then go to top tier. And then, okay, you 2 tiers, middle, bottom. Go to bottom tier. And say days. And make the count 1. And then go to middle tier and say weeks. And make the count 1. Say okay. There you go. And then now when you print it, does it fit on one page? There you go. Yeah. All right. You're welcome. Does anyone else have questions while I'm back here? All right, awesome. All right. Okay, so now we've made our 3-week look ahead, and this is what you would then print out for your meetings or for whatever. This is where we ended with the last trainings because this took us till the end of the training class. Is there anything else that you guys have questions on or want to go over before this one? Otherwise, we can just end early.
For the record, we're better than.
I just don't want to get too far ahead of the other classes. But I'm happy to stay here and answer any questions you guys have. Otherwise, you guys can go. Thank you.
One was supposed to be this one, the first one, my stepdad died, so I didn't make it, so I went to the other group. And then this one, I skipped, I had to go. I missed last week, so. Well, normally I was doing that.
So you've been in group.
Yeah, no.
If there's anything else. I just don't want to, people have been like going back and forth, so I don't want to get too far ahead, you know? But
Because the other one.
no one's gonna complain about ending 15 minutes early, right?
No, not at all. I'm wondering, if I just leave the meeting, does it save the recording?
Yes, when you.
I think it should.